So I have some updates on Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeysa Ozturk, and Mohsen Mahdawi. And some of it's sad, some of it's less sad. It's just, if you've been watching any of my coverage on this, you just know this situation to me is, it's very near and dear, and I care about it a lot, and it just breaks my heart reading all this. Um, just like, it's sad. So from the BBC, lawmakers visit students Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeysa Ozturk as they face deportation. Also, stick around to the end of the video. I have some public quotes from these figures about anti-Semitism because the claims against them is that they're pro-Hamas and anti-Semitic and etc. That's some of the many claims that the government is using as rationale to deport them. So, a team of Democratic lawmakers have met two foreign students who are currently in immigration detention in Louisiana as the White House seeks to deport them. The group visited two immigration and customs enforcement facilities where former Columbia graduate student Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeysa Öztürk, a graduate student at Tufts University in Massachusetts, are being held. The two students who participated in pro-Palestine protests on college campuses were detained separately in March by immigration officers. Their arrests form part of the White House's crackdown on what is classified as anti-Semitism on U.S. college campuses. The Democratic group included Representatives Cleo Field, Troy Carter, both from Louisiana, Bernie Thompson of Mississippi, Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, and Senator Edward J. Markey of Massachusetts. The visit was to let them know that we stand firm with them and support free speech. Rep. Carter told reporters after meeting, he said that the facility seemed clean, but that multiple detainees complained about cold room temperatures. Yeah, that's a pretty common complaint. Like, it sounds like you hear this from people being detained at the border, people being deported, that like you're put in these cold rooms with like no bedding or anything, and you're left there like overnight. And yeah, it's crazy. But it's good to see. So the good from the story so far is it is good to see lawmakers actually stepping up and visiting, making their presence felt in these facilities, letting these people know that there are people fighting for them. And hopefully they continue that fight and take steps in Congress to do as much as they possibly can for these people, because these people have done no crimes. There's no videos or even public quotes from these people saying anything anti-Semitic. And as we're going to see at the end of the video, they've come out several times against anti-Semitism. And as you know, Mahmoud Khalil has a wife and is about to, well, spoiler alert, she just gave birth. We're going to read that in a second. Mohsen Mahdawi was on his way to a U.S. citizenship interview because he was on the path to get his citizenship to become a naturalized U.S. citizen. And ICE used that as a honeypot to get him out of his house because he was afraid to leave it because of what happened to Mahmoud. And, as soon as he went in, 8 cars rolled up and they took him away. And then Rumeysa Öztürk, she wrote an op-ed. We read it on here. I encourage you to go look it up. Nothing bad, not even a wink and a nod to Hamas or any resistance or anything like that. But she was swept up in broad daylight by a bunch of plainclothed, masked ICE agents. And it's so sad. It's heartbreaking. Anyways. Senator Markey noted that neither student has been charged with any crime. He accused the White House of sending them to a Republican-led state in an effort to circumscribe the constitutional rights of Rumeysa Öztürk and Mahmoud Khalil, which they've been doing with a lot of these students and people they are trying to deport. Is they'll send them to Louisiana because there's favorable judges there that will rule in their favor. And it also puts this weird legal loophole where they're not able to challenge some aspects of their arrest and deportation attempts because it has to be done in the jurisdiction or the state they were arrested in. But they were forcibly removed from that state. So it's a messed up situation, to say the least. Ms. Öztürk has suffered multiple asthma attacks while in custody, he said, adding that she and other detainees inside the facility are not getting medical attention which they need and deserve. Mahmoud Khalil has been at Louisiana Detention Center since the 8th of March when immigration officers told him he was being deported for taking part in protests against the war in Gaza. The 30-year-old who lives in New York was a student negotiator at Columbia University during pro-Palestinian protests in 2024. The Trump administration cited a 1952 law empowering the government to deport someone if their presence in the country posed unfavorable consequences for American foreign policy. Because protesting a genocide is against American foreign policy, which it absolutely is because we're funding it with our tax dollars. But a judge in Louisiana said the Trump administration was allowed to move forward with its efforts to deport Mr. Khalil because the argument of adverse foreign policy consequences for the U.S. is facially reasonable. In a recent open letter, Mr. Khalil urged the U.S. public to see that the country was a democracy of convenience and rights are granted to those who align with power. His lawyers have told the BBC that they will continue to seek bail as well as preliminary injunction to free him from custody. His wife, Noor Abdallah, gave birth to their first child on Monday. She said Mr. Khalil's application for a temporary release from the detention center to attend a birth was declined. So this person who has committed no crimes, has no links to anti-Semitism, no quotes, no videos of him doing anything anti-Semitic. He wasn't even allowed to be there for the birth of their child. So not only did she give birth to a child, they're still, and she was pregnant, they're trying to deport him to Syria. If you know anything about Syria, there's a good chance he'll die in Syria because Syria is not a very safe place right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, unrest, and just a lot going on there. It's terrible. It is terrible. These people are monsters. We are the terrorists. I don't know what you want me to tell you. This was a purposeful decision by ICE to make me, Mahmoud, and our son suffer, Ms. Abdullah said. Ms. Ozturk, a Turkish citizen, was detained on March 25th outside Boston as she was walking to an iftar meal to celebrate Ramadan. Masked plainclothes officers handcuffed her. Already went over that. And this is just a summary that we've already went over and covered. Now let's talk about Mohsen Mahdawi. He was also visited by a senator, I believe. So detained Palestinian activist Mohsen Mahdawi says he's in good hands. A Palestinian man who led peaceful protests against Israel's genocide in Gaza as a student at Columbia University was recently detained during an interview about finalizing his U.S. citizenship. He said he's in good hands at the Vermont prison where he is being held. Mohsen Mahdawi, a legal permanent resident of the United States, was arrested on April 14th in Colchester, Vermont. He met on Monday with U.S. Senator Peter Welch of Vermont, a Democrat. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has been cracking down on pro-Palestine activities. In the first week of his presidency, Trump pledged to deport students who joined protests against Israel's war in Gaza that swept U.S. university campuses last year. It's a genocide. It is a genocide. Go look at the statistics. We've went over them. I don't have time to cover them in this video, but it is a genocide. I don't know what you want me to tell you. They are purposely targeting service workers. They've killed over 50,000 innocent civilians, a lot of them being women and children. They've destroyed the entire infrastructure completely. 80% of Gaza is leveled. They've cut off fuel, food, water, and electricity. And every week a new story comes out about some atrocity that Israel committed, whether it be the story from a couple weeks ago of them just lighting up an ambulance crew and executing them, or it be from there was some director, actress that was some film won an award or was going to be aired on some network. I don't know the full story. And they just drone strike their house in Gaza and killed her and her family within 24 hours of that announcement. So, protesting that stuff is a no-go in the U.S. because that's against our foreign policy. I mean, we're funding and providing cover for a genocide, and we're evil. We just double tapped a place in Yemen. So what that means is we bombed a building that was already residential, waited for service workers to come in, first aid workers, cleanup crews, etc. And then we bombed it again and killed a dozen service workers. We did that. I'm staying positive by reassuring myself in the ability of justice and the deep belief of democracy, Mahdawi said in Welch's video posted on X. This is the reason I wanted to become a citizen of this country, because I believe in the principles of this country. Welch's office said Mahdawi was being detained at the Northwest State Correctional Facility in St. Albans, Vermont. His case is scheduled for a status conference on Wednesday. His lawyers have called for his release. The U.S. Justice Department has not said why he's being detained. The New York Times reported April 15th that U.S. Secretary Marco Rubio wrote a memo that says Mahdawi's activities could potentially undermine the Middle East peace process. Yeah. And this guy, like, you can find 60-minute interviews and so much things of him coming out against anti-Semitism. We're going to look at some quotes here in a moment. Rubio has cited a rarely used statute to justify the deportation of Columbia University graduate student Mahmoud Khalil. It gives the U.S. power to deport those who pose potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. And yeah, this is all stuff we already know. But yeah, essentially, if you are against genocide that we are funding, that's against their foreign policy interests. Like, you need to get out. Yeah. It's crazy. And of course, people are like, yeah, man, these people are guests in our country, bro. They don't get constitutional rights. They don't get free speech. That's bullshit. They absolutely do. So I looked up, are there any public quotes you can find from Mahmoud Khalil, Rümeysa, Ozturk, or Mohsen Mahdawi relating to anti-Semitism? Here is from Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian graduate of Columbia University, has publicly condemned anti-Semitism in a 2024 interview. He stated, there is, of course, no place for anti-Semitism. What we are witnessing is anti-Palestinian sentiment that's taking different forms, and anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism are some of these forms. Additionally, in an op-ed, Khalil expressed concern about rising anti-Semitism on college campuses, but emphasized that addressing it should not infringe upon First Amendment rights. Yeah. Mohsen Mahdawi, a Palestinian student at Columbia University, has also spoken against anti-Semitism in a public statement. He said, to be anti-Semitic is unjust. The fight for freedom of Palestine and the fight against anti-Semitism go hand in hand because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Mahdawi has actively worked to foster dialogue between Palestinian and Jewish students, organizing weekly meetings to discuss perspectives on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Rümeysa Öztürk, so they have no public statements, but you can look up her op-ed. That's essentially what she was arrested for, and make your own determination. Spoiler alert, there is zero, like nothing in there. Nothing even slightly spicy or controversial. But this is the world we live in now, where speaking out against genocide is grounds for deportation. And you get instantly branded pro-Hamas or terrorist, which, in fairness to this administration, they don't even really say pro-Hamas anymore. They just say pro-Palestinian. So we're kind of honest about it. Crazy. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.